What's going on? I hope you all are good. So, Ahsoka, episode 3. Now right off the bat, I just want to say that this episode is a 9 out of 10 for me. I really enjoyed it. It had so much lore. It reminded me of George Lucas' Star Wars. It had that pure, magical and mystical feeling to it, as well as so many memorable scenes. The chemistry between all the cast is getting much better already, as expected. I know that was a complaint from many people from the first 2 episodes where the cast didn't really have much chemistry, but of course they're the first 2 episodes in a new show. The actors aren't going to be used to working with each other yet, but in this episode they are much better together and you can really tell that they're starting to warm up to each other. And so yeah, in my opinion the chemistry is so much better than it was in episode 1 and 2. I also really appreciated the part where we see Ahsoka training Sabine, considering training and flaws is not a thing that Disney Star Wars loves to do. Every character needs a flaw and something to work on to progress as a character and get better as the story progresses. So all props to Dave Filoni for writing that in the script to make sure that these characters have flaws and that a character that wants to be a Jedi trains. Dave Filoni understands this more than anyone but George Lucas, so I'm not surprised that Dave Filoni knows how to handle Force-sensitive characters. Now speaking of Force-sensitives, I'm still not on board with the fact that Sabine could be a Jedi and be Force-sensitive. I just don't think that was ever the way that the character was meant to go, and she was never shown or hinted to be anything Force-sensitive. So this doesn't make sense to me, and I hope they don't go that route. I hope that she just uses a bit of the Force to tell when someone's close and basically just help her detect where the opponent is going to swing next, or just where they're located nearby. I don't mind Sabine having a little bit of Force sensitivity, but just not a lot. But even if she is, it's not the end of the world. It's not that big of a deal as long as it's done well. Now my favourite part in the show so far is when Ahsoka goes on the wing of the ship and slices a ship in half in 0 gravity. Now this scene was great. It was straight out of the Clone Wars where Plo Koon went outside of the ship with 2 other clone troopers if I'm not mistaken. I think the episode was called Stranded and it was really good, and it introduced this concept of going outside the ship, and so I really like this. And of course you've seen Anakin and Ahsoka do this as well during the Clone Wars, so it was a great callback and it makes for some really cool entertaining scenes. So yeah, that's my favourite scene so far in the show, but I'm sure there'll be another one to dethrone it. This episode also had the most lore out of all of them so far, even though there's only been 3, but to be honest it has more original George Lucas lore than most of the other shows did combined. This episode had the callback to A New Hope where Sabine wore the mask that you can't see through during her training and had to focus on feeling where the opponent will be instead of seeing them. And then there was Shin wearing the headset from the prequels when she was in her ship during the space battle, just to remind us that this is a part of George Lucas Star Wars. It's not like the other shows where they just discard most of what George Lucas does. It just reminds us that this show is following on from the prequels and the Clone Wars and basically all of the Star Wars stuff that we like. And it just shows how much Dave Filoni respects what came before, and as fans we appreciate that as well. But the main bit of lore that I'm so happy that Dave Filoni included into this show was the fact that everyone in the galaxy is Force sensitive. Most fans or casual fans don't really know this, but George Lucas did state this, and he said it's like learning karate. If you're interested, you can choose to learn it. It just takes training, dedication, and just that pure want to master it. And this is basically symbolism for the fact that everyone has that special thing inside of them and that they just have to put in the work and stay consistent and dedicated, and you can achieve it. That's exactly what George Lucas Star Wars stands for, and now we can tell that also Dave Filoni Star Wars stands for the same thing: positivity, hope, and motivation for the young people in this world to go out and achieve what they want to achieve, and that anything is possible. It's beautiful symbolism, and that's a part of what Star Wars is all about. And I forgot to mention that a scene I also really liked was the space battle. Not only was it amazing, but it was the Purrgil being a part of it. But what makes it so special is that the Purrgil were around whilst this dogfight was going on, which made it much more interesting, and it allowed for there to be so many cool shots, which just made it so captivating to watch. This is what all scenes need, not only just in Star Wars, in all of movies and series, to make each scene stand out. We've seen dogfights in many different ways. Every scene just needs that one thing to make it different, and this did that. Not only was there a space battle, there was giant teleporting whales taking up all the space, which gives the characters in the battle some extra obstacles to get around. I mean, it's kind of like a map in a shooting game. It just would not be as fun if there wasn't obstacles such as broken cars, boxes, crash planes, pallets, whatever it is, to create more tense moments. Okay, so in conclusion, I did rate this episode a 9 out of 10 and I still stand with it. I really enjoyed it. Although the beginning was slow, the training sequence did go on a bit too long considering how short this episode was, but nevertheless, the back half of this episode was so good, it deserves the 9 out of 10 rating. It respected George Lucas' Star Wars, it felt like Star Wars, and you can just tell the difference between Dave Filoni Star Wars and the rest of Disney Star Wars. One side understands it and one doesn't. But anyways, I really enjoyed this episode. It looks like the next episode will have the lightsaber battles from the trailer, which I'm very excited for. Maybe we'll get a Marek face reveal, who knows, it's very exciting. The show's only going to go up from here, even though the viewership is low at the moment due to past shows. From what I've heard from the leaks, this show is going to get wild and set up the future story of Star Wars, thanks to Dave once again, and I'm sure it will bring more people into this show to catch up on it and watch it. Anyways, what did you think about this episode? I really enjoyed it. What did you think? Put it down below, and I'll see you on the next one.